Welcome to SEN Weekly Business Case Study. Well, we're kicking things off, and when we kick it off, we're going to focus on certain industries. The industry focus of today is nonprofit organizations. So when we do our business case study, it'll be between 20 to 30 minutes long, just to highlight certain businesses in the industry that can provoke your thinking to do a deeper search on your own independently, or connect with other business owners and do some meetups around these topics, around these case studies. We're also every week going to make a book recommendation. The recommendation for this week that's tied with our industry focus, which is nonprofits. The book that we want to recommend is Making Money While Making Social Change. And the author of that book is Sylvia Quinton. So today we're going to look at the American Red Cross. We're going to look at Habitat for Humanity, and we're going to look at the Boys and Girls Club. As we do these case studies, again, we're going to be researching industries, and in that industry, we're going to identify a business model that has been around for a good period of time, that we can look at their formation phases, their startup phases, and how did they grow and how did they maintain over a long period of time. So when we look at the American Red Cross, when did they get started? They were founded in 1881. The founder was Clara Barton. The purpose of why they got started was to provide emergency assistance, disaster relief, and education in the U.S. Now, again, this week industry focus is nonprofit organizations. If you represent a nonprofit organization, if you have started one, or you're in the planning phase to start one, I think this case study is going to be awesome for you. Maybe you've already started one and you've been operating it for some years, and now you're going back to the drawing board because you may need to look at certain areas that you need to improve your organization for long-term growth, right? So what is your purpose? The purpose of American Red Cross, again, was to provide emergency assistance, disaster relief, and education. When you think about your nonprofit organization, what are those three pillars of your organization? Why did you start your organization? Because sometimes I think people can start a business, but then they continue to, as they continue to grow, sometimes they can deviate from the original reason why you got started, right? So I want to remind any organization that's been around for some years to go back to your mission statement, revisit your mission statement, revisit your vision statement. Again, the Red Cross initially focused on disaster response and wartime aid. Later, they then expanded into blood services and training programs. But also, we have to look at what was their financial building block to sustain their organization long term. The American Red Cross operates one of the most diversified nonprofit financial portfolios in the world. And sometimes, startup organizations, we don't see ourselves as a business, but it is a business and you need to have a financial portfolio. Well, they have a revenue mixture between earned income strategies, public donations, grants, government support, and endowment and planned giving, right? So we need to really look at their financial portfolio and how have they been able to maintain since 1881. And I know sometimes organizations, particularly those that are in the grassroots startup phase, often is talked about grants, but you can't put all your eggs in one basket. You need to have a diversified financial portfolio so your organization can maintain. So they have their earned income strategy. What are some of those earned income strategies from the Red Cross? Training and certificate programs such as CPA and first aid. They have a training program that they charge for, and that brings in revenue into their organization. Public donations, of course, individual donors, corporate donors, and disaster-specific campaigns. What type of campaign does your organization have right now in 2026? What were your previous campaigns? And then, of course, they get federal and state funding. But let's talk about something else. Their endowments and planned giving. Most grassroots organizations don't consider this one at all. They have life insurance designations, right? So someone has taken out a policy and the beneficiary is the organization. They also have legacy donor programs. Again, this is how the American Red Cross not only started, but has maintained to 2026. A strong financial portfolio. When we look at their financial portfolio, once again, is a combination between earned income strategies. Again, use an example that we all know. Many of us probably have signed up for a CPR or first aid class through the Red Cross, and we paid whatever that fee was. Well, that's earned income coming back into their nonprofit. What type of earned income strategy do you have built into the model of your organization? And then public donation. But the specific one that I want to focus on is their campaigns. Again, they have a disaster specific campaign. What type of campaign do you have for your organization that's lasting year after year? And then, of course, when it comes to grants, they have that in their matrix as well. But when I looked up their data, the majority of their money comes from earned income, not grants. That's a clue to me. It's a clue for myself. In addition to me having my for-profit, I have a nonprofit as well. You cannot put all your eggs in one basket. And then you have to consider, if you have not considered an endowment by using life insurance or planned giving strategy, you want to add this into the matrix, okay? What is the key lesson we can learn from the Red Cross? Earned income stabilizes mission delivery during non-disaster period. So like we know if there's a disaster or if there's something heightened going on, they're going to get all this contribution, all this money. But what do you do? What do they do when that's not going on? Well, they do their ongoing training and certificate programs, right? And that is that ongoing income coming into their organization. Case study number 2. We're going to look at Habitat for Humanity International. When did they get started? They got started in 1976. The founders is Millard and Linda Fuller. What was the purpose of why they got started? To provide affordable housing through partnership housing models. Again, what was their purpose? Affordable housing through partnership housing models. And how did they build it? They built it on sweat equity. They had a sweat equity philosophy. Homeowners help build their own homes, right? That was how they built their structure. Now let's look at their financial model. Habitat blends mission-driven earned income and they couple it with philanthropy. Okay, let's look at their revenue mix. Earned income. So mortgage repayments from homeowners, revolving fund is considered a revolving fund model. Okay, so Habitat Restores. Many of you may have heard about Habitat Restores. That's their retail store where they sell donated building material. Again, that's earned. These are all earned income strategies that bring money into their nonprofit. Grants, yes, they get federal grants, they get community development funds, but they also fundraise. They have a faith-based donor network. They also get corporate sponsorships. That's another way to generate capital for your organization. And they have an annual fundraiser campaign. Now here we go with that word campaign again. That's something that the Red Cross has done. And this is something Habitat for Humanity is continuing to do as well. But corporate sponsorships is another way you can generate money for your organization. And then some of their capital campaigns is affordable housing development initiatives. And they also have a global housing impact campaign. But here's another thing that I thought was interesting when I researched this organization. They also have endowments and planned giving strategy, meaning they leverage life insurance. They have legacy gifts. They have long-term donor investment funds. Okay. Now I want you to think about your organization for a minute. Are you only just putting your eggs in one basket and only talking about where all the grants at? You're missing out on 3 other opportunities. You're missing out on an earned income strategy. You're missing out on your annual campaign fund. You're missing out on corporate dollars, and you're missing out on endowments. If you don't have those other pieces of the puzzle to your 501c3, to your charity organization, you are leaving money on the table. What is a key lesson we can take away from this organization is that they are mission-minded, mission-aligned. Earned income can recycle capital instead of exhausting it. A lot of times organizations, they feel that they don't have enough capital because they don't have something in place that's recycling the money, right? And because grants come and go. Sometimes grants is for 1 year, 2 years. Sometimes you may have a multi-year grant, but if you're only focusing on that, you're missing out on the opportunity to create a system for your organization that's going to produce capital every single year. Now let's look at a third organization we all know of, is the Boys and Girls Club of America. Now, when did they get started? They got started in 1860. Their purpose was to provide safe spaces and development programs for the youth, right? So they started as a local club, and later they unified under a national organization, right? So again, go back to your purpose. What is the purpose as to why you started your organization? Again, every week we're going to be looking into different industries. This week, our industry focus is on nonprofit organizations. I wanted to start there because that is where my background is steeped in, right? Started off as a community organizer, and then from there started to consult with nonprofit organizations since 2007. So I thought it would be fitting to start with this industry. Now let's look at the Boys and Girls Club financial model, okay? So now, of course, we know that they get federal dollars, they have national support, and they have financial support on a local level, right? So when we think about their financial matrix, they get federal dollars to support their educational youth development, they get state and local government funds, but they also have an earned income strategy. What is their earned income strategy? They have a membership-based program where it's low cost but high volume. So with the Boys and Girls Club, one of the things they thought to do to make sure they have income consistently coming into their organization, they implemented a membership program. Now, with that membership program comes benefits, right? By being a part of the Boys and Girls Club. So it is program fees, but partnerships. So basically, when you enroll into the Boys and Girls Club and sign up for one of their memberships, they enroll you into their program, and this program benefits that's the exchange that's taking place, right? So absolutely, nonprofits can have a membership-based program that is a tried and true method to bring in consistent revenue into the organization. But they also focus on corporate sponsorships, right? But there was another piece of the puzzle that I thought was interesting when I looked at the Boys and Girls Club, is that they also have a workforce development initiative, right? So some of you out there, you may have a huge passion to work with youth and young adults. You may have already started your organization. So how are you maintaining your organization from a financial standpoint, right? What is your financial portfolio for your organization? And to keep in mind, with the Boys and Girls Club, they also have an annual gala that they do every year, as well as they have a local donor campaign. There's that word campaign again. With all of these three well-known organizations that has been around for eons of years, they have some overlapping strategies that they all use, campaigns. And keep in mind, when I researched them, they also have an endowment and planned giving component, right? Where they have a community and based endowment fund that generates capital for their organization. And they use life insurance policies, naming their organization, the Boys and Girls Club, as a beneficiary. So these are strategies that are so fundamental. So what are some lessons we can learn from the Boys and Girls Club? They distributed funding models, they reduced risk, and increased community ownership. When you enroll a person into your organization and they feel that they have some type of ownership in the program, they're going to be a part of it. So what was the way they increased community ownership? It was by their membership platform. And that's how they operate even to present day, right? So when we think about these case studies, when we think about the American Red Cross, and when we think about Habitat for Humanity International, and we think about the Boys and Girls Club, right? What are some insights we can take away? They had diversified revenue streams is a takeaway. They had an earned income that was tied directly to their mission. They had long-term planning through endowments and planned giving. And they made sure that they had a capital campaign, but they were strategic about how they did it. In addition to that, they made sure that they created a strong brand that equal to trust. People trust them. It's a household name. Everybody knows who these names that I just mentioned. They built a strong trust to attract grants and donors. Listen, if you're trying to solicit for funding for your organization, how strong is your brand? Trust is a huge factor when you're talking about somebody's about to relinquish money and give your organization any amount of money. But what are some pitfalls that some organizations fall into? They over rely on grants. It's all they focus on is grants, 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 and they don't think about any other ways to generate capital. They have no income earn strategy at all. They have no long-term endowment planning, and their fundraising infrastructure does not exist, right? I want to share this quote: nonprofits don't fail because the mission is weak. They fail because the foundation wasn't built to last. I'm going to say that again. Nonprofits don't fail because the mission is weak. They fail because the foundation wasn't built to last. So I ask you to go back to your foundation, go back to your purpose, go back to your financial portfolio of your organization. Do you have a blended approach? Look at the SWOT analysis of your nonprofit. I know sometimes people look at SWOT as it relates to a for-profit, but do the same thing for your nonprofit. What is the SWOT? Your strength, your weakness, your opportunities, and your threats, right? Now, I mentioned at the top, I always want to recommend a book. So the book recommendation with this case study is entitled Making Money While Making Social Change, and by Sylvia L. Quinton. And I just want to read an excerpt from her book. The introduction of the community investor concept into the tax-exempt sector dispels myths that currently pervade the industry. One such myth is thought that money and mission are mutually exclusive, or that the two cannot merge. This book goes into talking about how a community investor concept brings, and restores public trust and strengthens the sector reputation. I'm going to read another excerpt. So who is a community investor? So I'm reading the book from as if the writer was talking about herself. Like me, a community investor is a person or organization that operates with an objective of making money and realizing a profit while using strategies reserved for public charities, and that uses the incentives and advantages of a tax exempt to change the landscape of the surrounding community. A community investor is driven by the passion to balance being a community change agent and being a magnet for money. Why do you do what you do? Why are you a community investor? Another page in her book says, in fact, the tax-exempt sector, by definition, is about the process of making and distributing wealth. I thought that was powerful in her book. I'm going to say it again. In fact, the tax-exempt sector, by definition, is about the process of making and distributing wealth. So when you're thinking about your nonprofit organization, we have to shift how we think about it. And we have to shift how we build it. We need to build the nonprofit as a business, because we're building this to be a distribution for wealth, right? A distribution for wealth. And we have to have that mindset. The book talks about how to turn your God-given assets into financial rewards. You have a gift on the inside of you. Anybody that has started up a nonprofit organization, you didn't just start it just for the sake of starting it. You started it because you want to make an impact into the community. Another sentence in the book says, without question, this would require a paradigm shift. When you're building your organization and you've identified the purpose, you've identified the who you're going to serve, you're about to make a paradigm shift in that community, in that particular target audience that you're going to be serving. I want to read another excerpt. Frankly, now is the time to develop new approaches to identifying funding streams for your tax-exempt organization. Government grants and corporate contributions, are drying up because increasingly competitive. It's becoming increasingly competitive, and the philanthropic resources are being redirected to national and international concerns and issues. Yet there still are unmet social, educational, and economic needs in our communities. Governmental agencies have only been marginally successful in delivering the services our communities require, such as education, housing, economic opportunity, and so much more. Public charities must continue to play a vital role in the delivery of goods and services in communities. So the question she put in this book is, who is going to rescue our communities? We are, and you can. So I just say, I would encourage anybody to pick up this book. Again, the book is called Making Money While Making Social Change by Sylvia Quinton. Everything that I talked about in the outline, you will be able to go to our website, strategicseednetwork.com, download the case study from today, as well as get a copy of the book. One of the things that we're going to be doing On the last Wednesday of this month, we're going to be doing a case study review. So every week we're going to be talking about different industries. This week happens to be on nonprofits. The last week of the Wednesday of this month, we're going to be talking about every case study that we went over for the entire month. So I invite you to join us on Wednesday, February 5th at 6 p.m., where we'll have a live discussion. So listen to all of the weekly case studies so we can come together the last Wednesday of this month and discuss it. But for those that are specifically in the nonprofit community, we're going to be doing spinoff meet and greets where we can meet up together and dive into this book. I really want us to dive into this book as a community, as a unit, extract principles from this book so we can implement in a greater way. So I hope that this case study was helpful, specifically for those that's in the non-for-profit community. Whether you've started an organization, whether you've been around for 10, 15 years, there's an opportunity where we need to look again at our purpose, make sure our funding matrix is not just only in one area, but a blended approach. Again, go to our website, strategiccnetwork.com, and you can download the document that I was going over so you can review it, share it with your team. Know that the best is yet to come, and I'm going to see everybody at the top.